On behalf of all of us at Good School Alliance, it's a big honor and privilege for us to meet Kamala Mukunda, who, if you ask me, requires no introduction because we've been reading a book and we could imagine a wizard who can win children's hearts. And I think that's where Kamala's forte lies, that she can really get children to learn. I think that's the important part. And the goal of a teacher is not to teach ever. The goal of a teacher is to understand the heart of the child. The goal of the teacher is to understand the feelings of the child. And that's where I feel the work of Kamala and the way we are reading the book has phenomenal meaning for all of us. Imagine trying to understand the brain of a person and then trying to delve into learning and then trying to go deeper into the heart. So thank you so much, Kamala. I don't want to say more because I can actually talk 45 minutes having read the book three times. So I don't want to talk more. That'll be like spill the beans. Second, I would like to really thank Neelashi for her maiden effort today for putting together this little meeting of ours. It's very special for us because that's her first meeting. We wish her many, many more meetings way ahead. We have with us Jugjeev sir, who's our Sunday school headmaster. And Jugjeev sir manages my good school for us. Children just love him read. So, and he's really an ardent admirer of all the work you do, and he reads a lot. That's the good thing about Jugjeev sir. This morning itself, I sat down with Kunal and we rethought why we are here. We are only here for one reason. Let's read. So if you see what we have done on the Good Schools website today, we have removed everything else. We've said we are only here for the joy of reading.
Hmm.
On that note, over to you, Nilashi, to be the host and take things ahead. We will have this available on YouTube, which will be available to a very large audience because whenever we have a session, the session is always limited to a handful of people who can ask questions and have a conversation. But the conversation has to create deeper learning for everyone for years ahead. On that note, over to you, Nilashi.
Thank you, Sandeep sir, and welcome, Miss Kamda. Since Sandeep sir has ended on the note about reading and joy of learning and joy of reading, my first question to you, and something that I'm also very curious about, is how does reading culture uh, transpire in your school for teacher professional development? How has it been important for you in your life as a teacher to read, and how does that inform your practice then?
First, can you hear me, Nilash?
Very
Yeah,
well.
first, let me thank you and Sandeep for calling me. I'm so happy to be a part of this circle. Reading circles are something that's a special love of mine, also. Book clubs, reading circles. So, it's a question of learning. One of the first things that I realized and decided I want to communicate with a passion is that human beings are really lifelong learners. We hear a lot about the early years being a critical window for learning, right? And while that is true in some senses, it it creates the false belief in us that after the school years are over, that window closes. And it's absolutely not true, right? The brain, everybody has now knows this phrase, the brain is plastic, which literally means that we are learning throughout our lives. I mean, and that is something that has given me at my age a lot of comfort and a lot of reassurance that it doesn't stop for me. I can keep learning. And one of the easiest ways to learn is to pick up a good book, right? It's the simplest thing. I would love to be taught by a teacher, but not all of us can be in that position of having a teacher to teach one, right? So a good book can do that for you. Not only books, I would say now because of the internet, good papers, good articles. Of course, I keep saying good, and this is the one tricky part, I think, of reading, is there's a lot of stuff out there. And how does one discern? How does one be a discerning reader? And I think that's a skill that comes over a period of time of reading. If you've read a lot, you become more and more discerning. And then you can pick up a book and say, well, this one is very prescriptive. It doesn't seem to be, it seems to be making a lot of assumptions. I'll put it aside. Whereas this one is, it's not. So things like that. So at our school, we are blessed with a lot of teachers who just came with the love of reading. But I must say, not everybody is an avid reader, and I don't know if I would impose that. Like those who just love to curl up with a book. Not everybody is like that. So some of our teachers are not, but non-fiction in their area of subject area, or even in any area that we want children to know more about, non-fiction reading is something that they're all open to. And so we have a good library, and we read together. Very often, not sometimes, very often, one of us will have a book in hand and then say, I'm really loving this, it's about this, and I'll leave it in the library when I'm done, and somebody else can pick it up. So there is that culture at school. But I think we are just fortunate. If it doesn't exist in a school, one must build it, the reading culture.
Thank you very much. Uh, since we are reading the book together, and a lot of us are teachers or are engaging with children of various age groups, I would like to understand how uh, you came up with this idea of writing the book, and how was your journey as a writer, as a teacher, and maybe, I don't know if I can assume, maybe even as a parent. So, how do all these questions then come together, and how many questions did you have while writing?
So many. Yeah, yeah. So you may know that I had done a doctorate in psychology, developmental educational psychology. And I came back to India after doing that and joined this school, CFL, I thought I had left all that behind. I thought, my passion is to teach at a Krishnamurti school, and I'm not going to go back and look at my books. But very quickly, within the first 5 to 6 years, I noticed so many things that my colleagues would say or parents would say, very educated parents often, or things that I would notice in the classroom or outside, that resonated with the research. And I knew there was a body of research out there connected to these comments or questions or assumptions, right? And it became a kind of a very deep interest for me to share that with like, say, suppose somebody says children learn best, children can't do abstract learning till they're 10 or 11. And in my mind, my psychologist voice would be saying, no, no, that's not true. That's not true. But, I didn't know how to say it. How do you say it quickly in conversation? And so after some years of this kind of frustration, actually, my husband suggested to me, he said, he also teaches in the same school. And he said, look, why don't you write it? Because you're not able to, spin off these responses in the spur of the moment. That's fine. Sit and write it. And that was all the invitation I needed. I sat down, I wrote, first I actually spoke to many teachers, quite apart from the ones I had already met and hung out with. I spoke to teachers from other schools, government schools, mainstream schools, also my friends from alternative schools, and also some of my older psychology students. And I said, what are the things that you think psychology should tell you? What are you curious about? And based on the questions that teachers brought up, I went through that lens, I went to the literature, the scientific literature, picked out bodies of research on each of these questions, and kept reading and taking notes and refining in my mind what I was learning from all that. So it was a very laborious but absolutely exhilarating process. 2 years it took. And the topics that I covered in that first book, as things like moral development, intelligence, motivation, um, nature and nurture, adolescence, all that. Yeah, so that was one journey. That book has really stood the test of time, I must say. And recently, someone was asking me, how come this, how come it has been so useful or continues to be? And I was just thinking that, usually we use textbooks to study psychology in, say, a B.Ed, and the textbook is very limited by a formula. It has to do things in a certain way, and that formula is very top down. It comes from the universities and their professors and all that, down, down, down to the teacher. By the time it comes to the teacher's hand, it is not resonating with their questions, right? Whereas I started from the other end. I started from the teachers and their questions, and then I knew there were things that would interest them. And I went looking, nosing around for that. So that, I think, is why it has been useful. And also to parents, I would say. You asked about me as a parent. I think that was all gut and instinct. I'm afraid nothing scientific about that. But as a teacher and as someone who works with other teachers, definitely this kind of thinking is very much informed me.
Um, since we are reading together as teachers, and a lot of us maybe don't even end up asking questions that are pressing for us in the reading group, maybe we reflect over them later on. How did you maybe share an anecdote or some story where you read something and suddenly when you're teaching in the classroom, it dawned upon you that yes, that spoke to me, and I can see it happening in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, there are many examples like this, but we could take, say, moral development. So people tend to have strong assumptions already, right? From just being a human being on this planet, living your life, all your relating and all that. So I have seen teachers responding to children's misdemeanors in different ways. Sometimes there's a sense of irritation, frustration, anger, disappointment, betrayal, strong emotions. And then I would read something about how the brain is not fully developed, impulses that come to thought are, aren't effectively inhibited, and then even, notions of right and wrong, so many things. And I would try to bring that. I think I've often seen that that's what rings a bell for me when I'm watching an interaction between a teacher and a student, or I'm listening to a teacher complain about a student's attention problems, right? There might be the assumption that he's just not willing to pay attention. But then I know that that's not the whole story. There is also an inability, there's a can't along with the won't. And that can't and won't are very closely allied. And maybe the idea is, maybe if the teacher could read a little bit more and learn about what's going on in a child's mind and body, maybe that will give them a little pause. See, it's not like I will tell you this is how you should respond. I'm just saying, know a little more about your subject, which is in this case the child. Know a little more about the child and then do whatever you're going to do. It is going to transform you, there's no doubt, right? So, yeah, many things like that.
I am going to keep going on, but I have one more pressing question. How did you come up with the title, and maybe you had other options, and what
Yeah.
made you title your book?
Yeah, I thought hard and, long and hard about that. And then I came across this quote, the famous physicist Richard Feynman, the one who has written that book, What Do You Care What Other People Think and all that. So he's written somewhere that his mother, when he would come back from school, instead of asking, what did you learn today? What did you do? What did you learn? She would ask him, what did you ask at school today? Literally, the word for word. Now, it struck me that not only is that a nice question to ask a child, but it's also a nice question to ask a teacher. Because shouldn't teachers be asking questions in school rather than just delivering assumptions, strong, holding on to strong beliefs and conclusions? Shouldn't they be asking, is this child, deliberately being misbehaving, or is it that he just can't help himself? It should be a question rather than a conclusion. So that's why I put that title, because it actually, for me, in my heart, it's for the teachers. What did you ask is for the teacher at school. Yeah.
That's a very beautiful thought. I think that really stay with me. Thank you. Would you like to maybe share what did you ask at school today?
Today, I don't know if I asked anything, but yeah, recently we've been having some. So there's this gossip culture in the middle school, and it's nothing new. It's as old as the human race, I suppose. But we've been talking with the children nevertheless. So one question that I ask myself is, look, is this just a phase? They have to go through it. Do they have to? Is it inevitable? Or is there something we can or should do about it? That's one question I ask myself. Because many times parents and nowadays even children will say, but it's natural, isn't it? And, but when I look at some of the scars that it leaves on some children, the scars continue till, even till they leave school. Those who feel excluded or bullied and so even subtle things, not even talking about physical bullying. So this question comes to me very strongly. Should we do something about it or not? Should we leave it and assume, because I know they'll get over it. So I did talk to the children. I said, in 3-4 years, you're all going to be such good friends and you'll all be plotting things against me only actually. But today you all are divided. So do you have to be divided for the next 3 years? Is there something we can do? And we're just opening this conversation with them. Yeah, it's a nice conversation.
Thank you so much. Before I ask my other set of questions, maybe I can open the floor to other people, other teachers, maybe Shubjeev sir, Manisha ma'am. Yeah. Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Ma'am, you've been in the space for a bit. What is your sense in terms of over the years? Is there more pressure on the children? How children have changed over the years, or they're the same?
Yeah, the external pressures have changed dramatically. I think one is social media. The other is children are not playing outside as much as they used to. I mean, I'm seeing this. They're either in, they're in housing which is not giving them the safety to go out and play, basically. And so parents are also scared to send them out. There's this sense of being independent and trusting the world and going out into the world is only really coming after they leave school, and even then not. Even then, with the smartphone, they want their children to have that location on. And so this sense of, the way the smartphone has come in and changed many things in our lives, I see that as a huge battle, actually. We are fighting that battle at our school. Most parents are on board, but some are finding it difficult. So that's one. Actually, the pressure of a career is changing, I feel, for the better. In the sense, I'm seeing a lot more alternative careers for young people. Unlike when we were young, there were very few things the very few dreams one was offered. Today, young people seem to be able to find niches and do interesting things, start things on their own. They're also not looking for the one thing, so that pressure is not there. They do something for 5 years, then they change. They'll completely redefine themselves and do something else for 5, 10 years. So some of these pressures have eased, I feel. But again, I'm in an alternative school space. I do realize that children in mainstream schools, nothing is letting up. The pressure is still intense. Exams are still quite a traumatic experience. Admissions, all these things, but more and more colleges are opening up. So that's a mixed picture.
Right. And what is the impact on the child of all this?
Yeah, so, one of the things I like to say is that our brain and body, and therefore a lot of aspects of our mind and behavior, were kind of evolved a very long time ago. So that core of us has to meet a very rapidly changing world. Yeah. Uh, I don't know if we are built for this world. Like, take for instance, children learn best not with a lot of fancy toys, not certainly not with an iPad when they are young. They learn best from just hanging out with the adults and other children and playing with whatever's around, a few button, a few, pipes, whatever they may be, right? I find that, so I'm a bit worried about this move. Like, how will this mind that is used to learning from social interaction and from objects in the real world, how is it going to develop? This one worries me. I don't know. That experiment has to still run for us to see. Or we adults may stop it, and that would be very good. Mm, I actually wonder about parents who have been through a brutal educational system and whether they see that their children are suffering in the way they suffered, and whether they will wake up and make a difference, and say that, look, I don't want this. Otherwise, it is troubling. I think suicide rates are going up among young adolescents. It's very troubling.
Right. And so you talk to parents a little bit, and the parents who've gone through the brutal system. I mean, on the face of it, it seems the pressure on marks is coming basically from the parents, right? And even schools have sort of
Yes.
succumbed to that.
Yes.
So, I mean, it doesn't seem to me that
Hmm.
parents are who've gone through that system are sort of saying, no,
Learning.
we don't want this for our children. So
Yeah.
how do you see this? I mean, like, where is it going to lead to, and what is to be done to fix it?
So I do feel there are a lot of voices. Maybe it's just my luck that I'm associated with people like you. And so I hear all these voices. I just don't know if they can be loud enough, soon enough to make a difference, right? Actually, nowadays, if you see, anxiety and depression among young people is going up. More and more people are needing therapists, counselors, psychiatrists sometimes even, right? It's becoming mandatory for a school to have a counselor on staff. It's like we're frogs in the warm water. No? When are we going to realize it's so hot that it's burning? Just we have to all keep using our voice wherever possible. Speak out, say something. I do feel, at least from the applications we receive, that people from all backgrounds, parents from all backgrounds, are feeling like, I don't want to subject my child to this. There's a different kind of model of parenting out there also, much more, conscious parenting, right? Because it's nuclear families, and it's not so much like, well, the kids are all just growing up on their own, and it's not like that, right? So I think parents are noticing their children's distress. At least they want to do something. Somewhere that has to make a difference. I mean, I have to believe that.
Nilashi, you'll have to come in and stop me. I keep going. I have a confession to make. I have the book, but I haven't read it. But so Nilashi, you'll have to sort of come in and see if anybody else has any questions or, you know.
Yes, yes. Meenakshi Prasad here, I see.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, ma'am, I'm also a teacher and I've been teaching for a very long time. And of course,
Hmm.
I'm a parent as well. And I've noticed one thing that bringing up children as a parent has changed quite a lot. As a young girl, I could go out and play and scrape my knees. And I lived in a nuclear family, okay? And, it did not matter so much. When
Hmm.
my daughter came in, I was much more protective about her, right?
Hmm.
Even
Hmm.
if she did go out, I would go out with her. My parents kept a watch on me, but from afar. Okay,
Hmm.
but with my daughter, I would be around close by. And now parents don't allow the children to go out at all.
Yeah.
And that I think is that lack of social interaction is making children very lonely. And
Hmm.
were talking about suicide rates and all these
Yeah.
things. I don't you think we need to educate our parents also a little bit, because here as teachers we are
Yeah.
trying our best, but system needs to change.
Yeah.
And so system change can come only when all of us, all the stakeholders are into it, rather than just
Exactly.
so how what's your take on this? How do we go about doing
No,
it?
I fully agree with you. Maybe if there were more articles on these things, on these topics in the places where parents are likely to read them. How do we reach that? Like it used to be, say, the op-ed page in the newspaper. I'm not sure how many people read the newspaper now, where they
Nowadays,
get
I
their
don't think,
news
even I
from,
haven't read it for a very long time. I
right?
mean, the
Where do we all
yeah,
get our news from? And only something that's newsworthy will come, right? Suppose I'm speaking a timeless truth about how children should grow up free of these things. No, who's going to be interested in sharing it? So our attempt is just to keep speaking in whatever forum we have, whatever forum is possible. Sometimes I do feel I'm preaching to the converted. Like, say
okay,
today, I think you're all on the same page with me. Hmm? How do we
yeah.
reach people who are not? That is something that keeps me up at night, that quest.
And like you said, that all educated people do not read either,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
All educated, so and nor do people, not all people come to platforms like this.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean, it's left me wondering. We do talk to parents, we do tell them, we do advise them. Having taught in the schools for a long period of time, we may tell them
yeah,
that okay, yeah, this will help your child. But with
yeah,
some of the parents are very, uh, they
yeah,
have their own mindsets, a very
yeah,
set
yeah,
mindset. So how do you change them? What do we do about it?
yeah. In
Any
fact,
ideas about?
well, there are some very good NGOs that are doing work in government schools, and
Right,
their approach is community based. They don't
right,
work with teachers alone, they work with teachers, with the children, and with the community. And I
right,
have witnessed some of these conversations where, it was in Rajasthan, in a remote village, I
right,
think, Phagi district. And the NGO person, the worker, the Shikshak Samarthan, was going out into the community and was explaining that he has told the government school teacher not to hit the children anymore. And the response he got from some women, from some mothers, was, but if you don't hit, then he won't learn. They won't learn.
yeah,
And he engaged with her, with that woman and her, I think it was her sister. And he engaged patiently and explained to her why hitting is bad. I mean, it was just one conversation. He had many like that. But that was one thing that really stayed with me, that this is one way to go into communities and speak. Now, these are in government school areas, so rural areas. How do we reach people in big cities? How do we reach people like you and me who still haven't got the message?
right. Okay, so that is like a major task, isn't it? That's what
Yes,
you're trying to say.
yes.
Thank you, Meenakshi ji. I think Kanika Devi had raised her hand. Kanika ji, will you unmute yourself and ask your
Yeah,
question?
thank you so much, Nilashi, for the opportunity. Good evening, ma'am. I hope I am audible to everybody.
Yes.
Am I? Yeah, okay. So before asking the question, I would like to give some background as in what I am or we are into exactly. As you just mentioned, it is difficult to reach the lower section of the society, the economically weaker section of the society. And I am working with an organization that specifically caters to this society. We work for underprivileged girls, as in we work for the girls who are basically from the slum areas. So I'm associated with the organization called the Mukti Sanstha, and we run a girls' school. So we have a
Hmm.
strength of around 800 girls with us
Hmm.
in Jaipur itself.
Hmm.
And we are running for the past 20 years, if I remember it correctly. So the challenges we face, are completely different from any other conventional school might be facing, because we do not have parents in picture. We do not have much of the resources at our discretion. So we have all together a different set of challenges we face. So, my question to you would be this, as in, the teachers that we have, in our campus, in our this thing system, they don't know how to, make children curious or, inquisitive about the things when they have other issues at hand. They might have been growing, under this impression that education won't bring changes in their lives. So how do teachers spark curiosity in these set of children under the circumstances they're already in? So that would be my question now.
Yeah, I mean, it would be lovely to spend more time with the teachers, but in a very brief way, since I just have to give a very brief answer to this. See, children may look like they're not curious about our questions. I would say about the matter in the textbook, right?
Right.
Because that wasn't written up with them in mind at all. But they
Mm-hmm.
will definitely have questions. I don't know if you're familiar with Yashpal ji, he passed away.
Okay.
He had this long list of questions that children had asked him over the years. I think it's even online, it's published. Children definitely have theories, thoughts of their own, questions. Suppose you ask them, like, how come, how does a pressure cooker make the rice cook? If you ask, they will
Right.
have such interesting theories about it. They are not at all silent inside. Okay, they may
Mm-hmm.
appear uncurious, but they have a lot of, they're figuring things out constantly. Okay, this is
Exactly.
something every child has. So how to tap into that is the question. First,
Right.
I have to be curious, like I have to be curious as the adult. Like what is going on in your mind? Let's say I show something or I say something that that you've seen every day about a tree or a flower or the sun or the stars. And I ask the children, how does that happen? How do clothes dry? Everyone, they've all seen clothes dry. How do clothes dry?
Mhm.
And the fun that ensues because they have interesting theories and they have ideas, and then we can say, okay, so shall we test your theory out? Shall we try it? And this is something that can be done in a science class, for instance. It has to start from their lived experiences and their own questions and theories, and that really does work.
Right. But I think, ma'am, in today's scenario, schools generally focus more on the right answers rather than the right questions. I think that is the grassroots problem. We want answers from a student. We don't want them asking questions to us.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
that is where the problem starts.
agreed, but we can take the path to the answer through these questions. I'm not saying that
Right.
at the end they won't know. Yeah, you will teach them finally how clothes dry. How does that happen, right? But it should, at least the entry point should be something from the child rather than from me or from the book. Just the entry
Smart.
point. If I take their questions seriously, if I write it on the board or I write it in my diary, they love it. When I go to children for a conversation and I take my diary and my pen, they feel so
Mhm.
important. Like, oh, so what I'm
Right.
saying, you're going to write down. You're interested in my questions or what I have to say. They
They
just
feel
love it.
acknowledged actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So it really starts with us. How curious are we? How interested are we? I'm interested in what they think. So
Got
rather
it.
than expecting them to be interested in something and then I deliver, then that's kind of, that's the problem, I think.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Thank you, Kanika ji. That was a very, very interesting questions. If someone else has a question, please you can unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, I'll take the opportunity to go ahead.
What impact do you think AI is going to have on children, ma'am?
Yeah. See, right now it's not on the very young. It's more in senior school and definitely much more in college. This sense that we can turn to AI to answer all our questions or to correct our essays or to improve our writing. But I have heard, and I am also seeing a kind of plateau. I'm not a soothsayer, so I shouldn't be taken to, my word is not worth much like that. I can't tell the future, but I am noticing a plateau, both in the quality of what is coming from AI and in our older students' excitement about it, right? I'm feeling like initially there was a huge amount of excitement, like that's it, it's going to change everything. And, I'm going to learn everything from this. And I'm seeing a kind of plateau to, okay, it's going to do that. I know what it's going to do. Let me try my other ways of learning, which is to read a variety of books or to talk to a real person. So I'm seeing this. I don't know how it's going to pan out. But it is a serious problem as at a later age in terms of employment and how mechanization is going to take many of our jobs. That is a huge social problem that other bigger minds are studying, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. I feel from my point of view, we don't need to introduce AI in schools as teachers at all. That's what we are doing. We haven't introduced the internet. We have internet exercises, very little, very judiciously. And we find that when they go to college, they're not handicapped in any way. They're able to manage. So we don't have to teach them to use computers while they're with us. They learn that very quickly. But now I must say these are children from middle to upper middle class backgrounds. I'm not sure if maybe in other milieus, maybe it is important to introduce computers. So to teach them the basics, because they don't have any other way to learn it at home.
So, ma'am, that's one of the thing that I've been wondering. These days you're trying to teach children so many things, right? Like somebody says, okay, now children should know financial literacy, right? And I'm saying, like, but why? When the time comes, they'll
Yeah.
figure it out or they'll learn more or whatever. So, what is
Yes.
your sense on all this type of stuff,
No,
right? You're saying even the
absolutely.
computer can be learned later, is what I hear you say, which is quite
Yes.
contrary to what one would expect for somebody, for dealing with smaller children or medium or school children, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with what you're saying, because as it is, the school curriculum and the school years have been stuffed with a lot of knowledge. A lot is expected of them when they are 18. I just wouldn't add any more. If anything, I would reduce, right? Why are we doing this hastening? See, the fact is that their brains are going through a developmental progression that cannot be rushed. And yes, many children are very precocious and externally seem like they can pick up a lot of stuff and work with it. But there is emotional, there is psychological, there is social, there's a lot, and there's physical. There are many aspects to development. Just to feed one part of it and kind of, I see sometimes parents almost proud of a child who sounds like an adult. And I don't feel that that's cute. I don't know. I feel that's a fetish we have. Like we find children in adult clothes cute. I don't find it cute. I find it troubling. Why can't we just let them be kids for as long as they can?
Thank you. Can I maybe squeeze one question from my side?
Yes.
I think since we're talking about AI, I've also noticed that a lot of students and adults as well, they use AI or other platforms to get a summary of the book.
Mm.
And they feel like, and now people have started putting YouTube videos about what you should know from this book, what, at least the philosophers and everyone. So could you maybe you give more helpful advice to your students or to your teachers? And what kind of advice or suggestions or what kind of activities, if you could point out, that really builds the joy of reading? Because if you have if you've written books, I'm sure you would want people to really engage with them, read.
Yeah.
and not just get an AI summary of it. So
Yeah. That's why what you're doing is so important, so valuable. So sometimes, so I wouldn't want to say to children that, all summaries are bad, never read a summary. I myself read book reviews sometimes, a good book review, to get a sense of a book if I don't have the time to read the whole book. But it's very easy to lose the stamina to read. I'm seeing it, I saw it in myself a few years ago, that I was losing the stamina for long form reading. And it was just shocking to me because I've written books, you know, 80,000 words. And if I can't read, then what am I thinking? Sending a book out there, right? And it requires work. It is not, you will lose it if you don't do it. And so I've had to consciously bring back that reading habit into my life, which was something that was as normal to me as eating and, having a bath. Reading was like everything. But I've had to bring it back consciously, make the time for it, because lives are so busy these days. That's another thing. I don't understand where time is going. So make that time. So we've told children that the stamina of being able to read an entire chapter book, a whole book of chapters, is something that you have now, but you could lose it. So hold on to it. If it's something, an activity that you have enjoyed and you valued, don't think that I'll always be able to read a book when I want. It doesn't happen like that. You can lose that. Yeah. And I don't trust summaries I don't trust the AI summaries. I would have to be convinced because, the author puts in sometimes a small little idea, one sentence can be very impactful. And I would have thought hard and long about that one sentence. AI may not pick that up. It may not be part of the summary.
thank you so much. Sandeep sir, you want to say something?
No, I was just loving how Kamala came to it. It took me 3 years to get back to reading. I'm making a confession here. It took me 3 full years to come to where I am, where I have three, four books home, and at different times of the day, I read a different book, depending on my ability to read the chapter.
Mm.
So at night, when I know I'll fall asleep minute I hold the book, then I will just read something which doesn't have to be remembered for the rest of the life. So, and something
Quite
which
true.
is remembered, I'll read in the morning.
In the
And
morning.
I tell you how this is a simple thing which Robin Sharma says that the only way to read is get up in the morning and read the first thing. It's a very simple secret. It's nothing very complicated. And if you can manage that, I think that's where you will find this ability to read.
Mm.
So beautifully said that the fear is only this: how do we preserve and how do we cherish the art of reading? I want to just add in the next 5 seconds one thing more. Please understand that this focus on reading we have had for just last 100 200 years. Before that it was purely on listening.
Mm.
On that note, when you look at the culture we are in, and when you look at the West, which says read, 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 while India says listen, 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 I'm just leaving this as a thought because there are different abilities. And what you said in the beginning is that there are people with different abilities and how everyone absorbs differently. So if that sensitivity can be built by reading, well and good. If it has to be built by some other way, that's the teacher's challenge.
Yes.
Well, I have to say I didn't have a question, but I just fell in love with what you said, that this ability to read a chapter at a time is the challenge. It's not about fiction or non-fiction.
Yeah.
And once you get this joy, which we are trying hard to do, a session like this, we normally will not have more than 25, 30 people. If I host a
Yeah.
book reading, we put it all together. Sometimes we had only 5 people coming. But remember, I say one simple thing: please read to the last child standing. And that's how we went to the same village which you mentioned in your conversation, where you talked about Shikshanta.
Oh.
Yeah, I was in the same village for 7 years, by the way. And we built a reading culture in the same village in a school. So that's another story for some other day. Thank you, Nilashi. Like Jugjeev says, we can just talk the whole day. So we need to stop, and you are leading us. And yes, I'm absolutely joyous today. I've used an interesting word to have Nilashi, and I see a brighter future for all of us. Thank you for letting me speak, Nilashi. You've been a wonderful host.
Thank you, Miss Kamla.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.